Hey everyone, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2019 Ram 1500, we're going to be showing you how to install the Blue Ox base plate kit with removable arms. But before we do that, let's take a minute, we'll check this out and make sure it's going to be the right setup for you. Before we jump right in and get into everything, I figured it'd be useful just to address one of the main questions that we get asked all the time in regards to setting up a flat tow. And that's, what parts am I going to need? So you're going to have a total of 5 main components. First one will be your base plate, and that gives us an attachment point. That way we can hook our tow bar up to it. It's going to be the actual link that connects the back of the coach to the front of your vehicle. Third part will be safety cables, and these are just there in the event of an unlikely disconnect or keep everything paired together. Fourth main part will be your tow bar wiring, and this is just going to send the lighting functions from the back of your RV to the back of your Ram whenever you're going down the road. And last but not least, the fifth main part will be a supplemental braking system. And what this is going to do is apply the brakes in your truck whenever you hit the brakes in your coach, bringing you to a safe and predictable stop. This is what the front of your truck can look like whenever you're not hooked up to your motorhome, which I think is important, especially when it comes to the appearance. And with this setup, I really don't think it can get much better, to be honest with you. The base plate is more or less just going to replace the factory tow hooks. And so originally we had tow hooks here to begin with, and these aren't any more noticeable than that. In fact, I think they're a little less noticeable. Even if your truck does not have factory tow hooks on it, you'll still have these panels here, which you can trim out and still utilize these openings to get access to your base plate. I do like the fact too that the base plate is going to have some brackets pretty much already built into it, and that makes it ideal to mount up your wiring connector, your breakaway switch, and any other components that are extra that you need to mount up front here, because not a huge opening, right? So trying to make something work would be pretty difficult. The fact that it's already there to use really streamlines it, and it's all easy to get to. The base plate does come with these little plugs too, which is a nice touch. So when you're not using it, you put them in there. Helps clean up the appearance a little bit and prevents, road grime and everything from getting inside of there and chewing it up. But when you are ready to set everything up, it's going to be really straightforward. And that's because the arms are going to be removable. And the way these work, put them in place, rotate it about a quarter turn, it'll lock in. And then you'll just do that same exact thing on the other side of your truck. Once you got these arms in, as far as setting up your tow bar and connecting it, really straightforward. You just line up the ends of the tow bar, put your pin through as well as your clip, lock that down. Safety chain openings are easy to get to. Clip those on and hook up the rest of your components, and that's all there is to it for kind of linking everything together. In terms of what tow bars the base plate is going to be compatible with, it's going to work with a lot of them. Of course, your Blue Ox tow bars will mate right up to it, and even if you have a different manufacturer, so for example today we have a Demco style tow bar, a lot of times there's adapter ends available which you could just switch out, connect them to your existing tow bar and allow you to pair the two together. Here's how your setup can look once you have everything locked in and ready to go. And I like it. It's a really simple design with everything being kind of located in the same spot. Your tow bar hooks up there, your safety cable, breakaway switch. The other side's the same deal. You just have your tow bar wiring. So it keeps everything organized, clean, easy to see. Something I did notice, the attachment points are pretty wide, right? They're pretty spaced out, which I feel like is a good thing on a big vehicle like the Ram, because it'll probably track a little bit better if I had to guess. But something to think about is, since they are spaced apart so far, the tow bar is going to have to be real wide. And so if it were me, I'd probably go with one of the longer type tow bars out there to, that way you have a decent amount of distance between your truck and your motorhome. We have the Demco Excalibur 3 today. Seems to work just fine, about spot on. And matter of fact, with the Ram being a pretty heavy vehicle, you're going to need a tow bar that's rated for that weight. And a lot of times, once you get up to that weight capacity anyway, you're pretty much, you don't have a ton of choices to choose from. They're all pretty much more premier type tow bars, which are going to be pretty long to begin with. The base plate is going to be compatible with all the different submodels of the Ram 1500. So for example, today we have the Longhorn. Everything went together just fine. If you have the Rebel model, this will bolt up to it. If you have base model or just about anything in between, the base plate will work out for you. To compare this one to some of the other ones available, there's a handful of them, and they're all extremely similar. They utilize the same openings, like the Blue Ox does, and really can't go wrong with any of them, to be honest. But, as far as the Blue Ox goes, good choice. They've been around for a long time. They're really big in the flat towing world, and there's a reason for it. That's because they make good parts, so really can't go wrong. As far as the installation goes, it really wasn't too bad. We pulled the bumper off. It's only a handful of bolts holding it on. Base plate bolts up. There's a couple holes you have to drill, not a huge deal. And then the bumper goes back on. And when you're doing that, everything's pretty tight. So just take your time, get it into position. But if this is something that you're going to be doing yourself, feel free to hang around. We'll go ahead and get started on it now. To begin our installation, we're going to be at the front of our Ram, and we're going to need to remove our front bumper. That way we can get the base plate on. So to start with, we'll be working in our wheel well area here to get some fasteners removed. We have 3 8mm head screws we can pull out, and it usually helps if you turn your tires in or out, one way or the other. It gives you more room to work. And from this point on, whatever we do to this side of our vehicle, we'll also do to the other side. So it'll be set up the same. But got my 8mm here. Go ahead and pull these out. If you follow that plastic liner towards the center of the truck, we'll have 2 more 8mm head screws. Then you can remove this plastic piece and set it off to the side. Over here, just on the driver's side, we're going to have an electrical connector, and I just removed it from the frame. You just slide it back off that piece of plastic so I can show how this works a little bit better, but we need to disconnect it. So this red tab, you can push down on it and kind of pull it back towards you. Sometimes these are really tight too, so you might need a little flathead screwdriver or something to give you a little extra leverage. And then this gray handle unsnaps, and we can separate the 2 ends. At this point, we need to remove the hardware that's holding our bumper on, which is connected to the frame of the truck. And so on each side of it, you're going to have 3 nuts, kind of right up here in this area. Underneath the truck, you'll have 2 of the nuts will be on the outside of the frame rail. So I have an 18mm socket. Pull that off. And what I like to do with one of them is just take the nut and put it back on a couple turns. That way, when we do the other side, there's going to be something supporting the bumper still. It's not just going to fall off. But then the last remaining one, it's going to be located up there, and it's pretty tight to get to that one. You can't really get a power tool or nothing in there. So I'm just going to use a wrench like this to get it removed. Now with an extra set of hands, you can get the bumper removed. I did put some painter's tape along this painted edge here, just in case if you have to work the bumper off, you don't scratch it. And when you're supporting this, take those nuts off that we left on hand tight, but ours is coming off pretty easy here. And we'll go ahead and set this off to the side. We can get our tow hooks removed. So there's 2 bolts holding these in, one here, one here. We're gonna start with this one first. It's an 18 millimeter, and this is a super long bolt. Just kind of give you a heads up. So once it kind of drops to this point, you can almost apply downward pressure to it with your hand while you're loosening it. If that bolt don't want to come out, you know, so you can move it around and I can tell that it's not threaded into anything, just kind of stuck in there, which is pretty common. I just take a pair of vice grips here, clamp the bolt. I'm just going to help it out. That way we can get it removed. And then this bolt, you can change over to a 21 millimeter size socket. Lower all this down and set it to the side. You want to take the long bolt here and reinstall it. We can grab our base plate now, and these are going to be side specific, so check your instructions, make sure you got the right side. In our case, which it should be in all the cases, on the driver's side you should have these tabs here to connect your electrical connector to, but double check the manual just in case. But it's going to line up like that, and then for now we're going to take the factory bolt that we pulled out of there that was holding our tow hook in and tighten this down by hand. Pushing this up against the frame, making sure it lines up good and everything, and I'll come back with my 21 and just snug this bolt down to keep the base plate in position. On each base plate, there's going to be a couple holes that we need to drill out. We'll start with this one here on the bottom, and just using the hole in the base plate as a guide, we'll create an opening. We can take one of the handle nuts here. Since it is kind of tucked way back in the frame, I just took a pair of vice grips and connected it to kind of extend the handle, make it a lot more manageable to work with. And you're going to have a bolt put on a split lock washer. With these, I like to just run the bolt through there by hand first, because sometimes this will get, have some slop in there and make it difficult to thread in. So do that, and then the hardware that we're going to use to secure the base plate, we're going to put some Loctite on the threads. And so this will feed up into the frame. Our handle nut will go inside. We'll get it lined up and started here. Once you get that started hand tight, take a 3/4 inch socket. We'll snug that down, and then you can change over to a 21 millimeter again. Remove this bolt. We'll put Loctite on those threads and reinstall it. We're going to have one more hole there in the base plate that we'll drill out as well. We'll take another handle nut, that same hardware combination. Don't forget your Loctite. We'll get it lined up. Started. Take our 3/4 and snug it on down. You want to make sure and come back with a torque wrench now and tighten down all the hardware to the amount specified in the instructions. The little handles that were on the handle nuts, these come off. A lot of times you can just work them back and forth to pop them free. If not, come in there with a pair of cutters and cut off the extra. And then I took our included safety cables here. So they give you a D-link, put that around the hole in the base plate, and then the safety cable just wraps around the frame. All right, connect them there. And then one thing I like to do is take some zip ties here and there and just kind of secure them up tight. That way they're not bouncing or clunking around whenever we're driving down the road. It'd be a great time to install some of your other flat tummy components, like your wiring, for example. And I say that because with the bumper and everything off, you got a ton of space to work, right? So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. If you have those parts on already or you're not gonna be installing them, you can simply just reinstall the bumper the opposite way that you removed it. Really, with one exception, if your truck didn't have the tow hooks on it, you will have to trim out the little openings to allow the base plate to come through. It's pretty simple. It's in the instructions. But the majority of these trucks, from my experience at least, do have the tow hook. So if yours is set up like ours, you can just simply put everything back together the opposite way. After trying to get the bumper back on, I think it's doable without removing material, but it's so tight and I don't want to risk damaging anything. So to make things easier, I'm just going to remove a little bit of material on each side of our bumper, and I'm just going to cut this little portion out here and then a little sliver there where it has an angle in it there, this flat side. And that should buy us some space and make things a lot easier. This is pretty hard steel, so I'm going to use a cut-off wheel. You can use a angle grinder, multi-tool, kind of whatever you got to get this done. Here's how this looks once it's all trimmed out, and I did come back with a file, smooth out some of the rough edges, and put paint on the bare metal just to help protect it against rust. And get our bumper into position. I was able to get our bumper reinstalled, and it's definitely tight. You know, you'll just have to kind of get it going at the same time and work it into place to clear everything. These, you know, if you kind of lift up on these parts here, it buys you a little more room. And you can unscrew your connector plug here as well, and that just kind of frees up a little bit of space there. But, you know, you get it in place, bolt it all down, re-secure it the opposite way. And with that done, that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Blue Ox base plate kit on our 2019 Ram 1500.